Now, I'm absolutely loving the TCR series in iRacing right now. The sign-up rate is enough to give you some decent racing without being populated by idiots, so you always end up with enthusiasts just looking for a fun time. And it's also been a while since I last did a race, as it is, life gets in the way, and that's the reason I pretty much only do fixed setup races in iRacing. So this last week I've been surviving Laguna Seca, a track that by sim racing standards is America's Spa. When it's on, it attracts more people, and therefore you end up involved in something you don't particularly want to be in. Carnage. But this race was pretty fun, so I've combed through the replay file, found all the good bits, and I'm actually also here to try and provide a public service announcement. Now these cars have launch control, so keep the revs at the right point, and when the lights go out, release the brake and off you go. And this track is difficult because of turn 1 being as it is, but while there is a bit of banging in behind, everybody is through turn 1 safely. Still, anything's better than the first chicane at Monza. Nice and careful here, balance the brake, balance the gas, try not to hit anybody, keep it nice and tight to the inside line, and then up through the gears, well, up into the next gear, because then it's time for turn 2, or turn 3, according to the track map. FedEx guy gets a little bit of a biff, I'll have that, thank you very much. Now, he was a 3k iRacing driver, and I was actually faster than him, so I'm getting somewhere. But the best start award has to go to this guy driving the camo red bull skin. Lights go out, he gets the perfect start, everybody around him is just so sluggish, so he goes for a gap, because if gap car, and just takes advantage of everything going on to find any gap that exists. And then he manages to slot in just behind me into turn 1. Bit of a biff, that's probably what the banging was behind me. And he grabs a couple of freebies. And a bit more biffing, bit more banging. That position is his. He was a British driver, so he's probably going for the full BTCC method of just go for it, elbows out. It is quite elbows out in this series, but you get... Oh, he's dead. Now remember this guy in the black car for later. Reactionary blocking, being overly defensive, moving in the braking zone, almost chopping that guy's front wing off. The sort of guy that you give the widest of berths to avoid being taken out. The sort of guy that has seen drivers do what he's doing in the 1980s and forgets that you can't do that anymore, it's now 2021. So that guy takes the position from him, and then it's fighting with this slime green and yellow car. Which allowed everybody else to bunch up, and I managed to lose a position into the final corner with a good overtake. That's how you race. Nice and clean. Why can't we have more of that? But then the FedEx car got a bump in turn 3 and that allowed me back into things. Knowing this guy is relatively clean from when he got past me before, I figured I'd try and get the position back. I managed to get a good run out of 4 and was ahead before 5, but since he had the inside line he came back and was a bit better on the brakes as well. But I got the better exit, held the position, and then he calmly slotted in behind for 6. No crazy dive bombing, no hitting, all good stuff, all above board. Beautiful. But it almost went horribly wrong at the end of the lap when the Red Bull driver missed his braking point into the final corner. You think that was close? Let's have a look at that from another angle. New pants, please. But he held his hands up and said he got it wrong, so can't fault him for that. And then I got a freebie. The best kind of position in my book. Car ahead was chasing down the serial blocker, dropped it on the gravel. Free position, up to 5th. I also love it when people behind you start battling, because they slow down and the gap to you increases. So here's a look back at the car that binned it in the previous clip, and the Red Bull driver is also line astern across the start line heading towards turn 1, which allowed me to breathe a little bit easier. This series can be very close and intense when it wants to be. And because the slime guy and Red Bull guy were battling, it allowed the FedEx guy to start pulling away. Then at the next corner, both cars disappear from my rearview mirror. And here's why. The Red Bull car is chasing the green and yellow car, and the Red Bull car just drops it onto the gravel in the same way the car ahead did a few laps before. And you can see the Red Bull car pulls up and waits to give the guy's position back, but the yellow car had already quit to the pits to get a fast repair. Meanwhile, despite the gap having gone up in the preceding laps, the gap to the guy ahead was coming down. His lap times were getting slower and slower, but mine remained consistent. So I'm starting to think, he's making more mistakes, he's probably burned his front tyres out. Remember, these are front wheel drive cars, the front tyres do the steering and the driving, so once those front tyres go past their sell-by date, you're a sitting duck to everybody behind you. So this is the start of the final lap, and I've edged a tiny bit closer coming out the final corner. As we approach turn 1, I'm surprised to see him brake super early and shoot across to the left hand side of the track, and I'd been braking it just before the number 4 brake marker every single lap until this point. He covers off into turn 2, which is fair enough, so I'm going to try the switchback, but he manages to keep it nice and tight to the inside of turn 2, so I've got to try and see if there's a way past in turn 3. So I show my nose to try and force him wide, but that doesn't work, but still he gets a compromised exit. And I know he's going to try and take the racing line back, so I go the other side, and he blocks me, forcing me to brake, which I wasn't really happy about. So I try the outside of the next corner, because I'd done that earlier and it had worked, but didn't get the best exit, so he kept the position. I try to go to the inside for the next corner, and watch as he does a bit more reactionary blocking and moves back across to the other side. Again, not too happy about that. This has brought the guy in behind back into play. So at the corkscrew, I put on my bravery pants, and I attempted what I like to call the full Zanardi. This time it was his turn to not be a very happy chappy.
What are you doing, man? Are you fucked? That's what you get for weaving.
I only got a 1x for that as well. I was expecting a 4. I got lucky on that occasion, I won't be doing that again in a hurry. Then at the final corner, our friend did what I like to call the double kiss. And the guy he hit was not happy.
Tío, ¿cómo puedes ser tan puto cerdo, loco? ¿Cómo puedes ser tan cerdo?
And I'll repeat now what I said to the guy on voice chat at the end of the race. If you're going to block, weave, and then proceed to bump and run a guy in the last corner and wreck his car and ruin his race, don't cry when someone does a move on you that you perceive to not be gentlemanlike. We all have our favourite drivers. Montoya, Schumacher, Turkington, McLaughlin, whoever. And some are absolute fanatics. Now apologies if it feels like I'm picking on individuals here, but this stuck out in a Formula Renault 3.5 race I watched a few weeks ago. This guy is clearly a Senna fan. I'd go as far as to say he's quite the enthusiast. And he's not quite content with just having the McLaren livery on his Formula Renault here, he's got the helmet and overalls to match. So imagine my total lack of surprise when this happened barely a lap and a half into the race. Now Dave Cam has his thing on blue flags and how to multiclass, so I guess I'm sort of doing the... Forgot about that bit. I'm sort of doing the single class sprint race PSAs. This, if you no longer go for gap mentality, is going to ruin you and others. Weaving, blocking, slamming doors shut as we saw on the final lap of that race, that's also going to ruin you and others. The thing is, Senna was a known driver. People knew his game. They knew if he showed his nose, it was better to move over and survive than get wiped out. My point is, you're not Senna. Nobody else in the race knows you from the next guy. I don't know Michael Heidenreich from Miguel Sanchez or Matthew Richards 4. Nobody knows what you're thinking, and it's how certain demographics on iRacing have become a meme for this sort of thing. But all I'm asking is for people to just think beyond the first corner and the first lap. Think before you make that lunge. Is there a gap? Yes. Will the gap be there when you arrive at the corner? These are things you have to take into account. There is more to racing than just lobbing it into a corner that will look good on highlight reels on YouTube. There's more to racing than being on the ragged edge every single lap. Just because Senna could dive bomb it in and get away with it, just because Ricciardo can send it, because Verstappen can send it, because Hamilton can send it, doesn't mean you can. You are not Senna. Like I told that guy at the end of the race, if you're going to weave, if you're going to block, if you're going to dive bomb, if you're going to slam the door shut, don't get upset when the favour is returned. And it's not just an iRacing thing, it's ACC, it's R-Factor 2, it's Race Strip, it's all of them. Just think. So if you have enjoyed this video, then give it a like. And if you want to see more, obviously click subscribe so you get all the latest. And as always, a big thank you to the patrons of this channel via Patreon. And if you want to join them or just join in the Discord stuff, then I'll leave all the relevant links in the description box for you. So until next time, I've been AdmiralLaWind. Have a great day wherever you live in the world, and I'll see you all again very soon. Goodbye.